Burnaby sits in the lower mainland of British Columbia. It's considered a suburb of Vancouver, but it's actually the third largest city in the province.
The people who live here, well, we're a very diverse community. Probably one of the most diverse communities in Canada. 150 languages spoken in the city of Burnaby. It's really a very diverse, but that's our strength. Our strength is in the diversity of our community.
We caught up with Mike Hurley, the mayor of Burnaby, as he was finishing up a round of golf. He says the film industry has really put his city on the map.
And the reason for that is because we have the workforce. We have a big workforce that can work in the movie industry. That's why they come from all over the world to film here.
Burnaby rivals Toronto as Hollywood North, thanks to its natural beauty. Currently, 140 sound stages are being built in the area. The mayor is telling the world about Burnaby, BC.
Hello everyone, Mayor Mike Hurley here at Central Park, one of Burnaby's most popular filming locations. Amazing locations like this are one of the many reasons that Burnaby has become a hub for film productions.
Television series like Virgin River were filmed here, and the movies aren't the only ties Burnaby has to the entertainment world. You know how I feel. Michael Bublé is from Burnaby.
Wait a minute, Doc.
As is actor Michael J. Fox. Politically, Burnaby is also known as being a solid riding for the New Democratic Party, home of NDP leader Jagmeet Singh.
Well, Burnaby's always been thought of as a stronghold for the New Democrats, but really, that's always been more of an overgeneralization. Jagmeet Singh's strength over here in Burnaby, in the renamed Burnaby Central, what's going on here is that he first took the riding in 2019 in the by-election when his leadership status for the NDP was seriously under threat.
Pundit Hugh Chan says Jagmeet Singh is vulnerable in this election.
He's never been that strong of an incumbent. In 2019, he won by around 10 points in his first go-around because I believe the Liberal candidate got into a scandal of her own, something about encouraging ethnic bloc voting. But he still only won by 10 that time. And what's happened in a lot of Burnaby, and especially in Burnaby Central, is that you've seen places like, say, Metrotown pop up. And Metrotown is this swingy part that's filled with condos and is mostly home to richer, affluent, condo-dwelling Chinese Canadians. And really, that's not exactly the most NDP favorable demographic out there. They've gone between the Conservatives and the Liberals in the 2019 and 2021 general elections. And well, this part of town is going to be really important to determine if the Liberals or the Conservatives are going to have enough votes to dethrone Jagmeet Singh. Elsewhere across the riding, it's not looking that good either.
Pollster Mario Canseco agrees.
This is a very hard riding to win. We go back to 2015, and that was an election where the Liberals get their best total across the entire province since 1968. They got 35% of the vote, and in that election, the NDP barely held on to the Burnaby seat, with Kennedy Stewart, who later on became mayor of Vancouver. He won by less than a percentage point against Adam Pancras from the Liberals. So when you have an election where the Liberal pool is getting the vote from the NDP, like the one we had in 2015, that's when the NDP incumbents are in trouble. More complicated for Jagmeet Singh because he's got to be campaigning everywhere. He can't be here, he can't knock on doors.
Friends, we just saw recently that Pierre Poilievre released his platform. He laid out his plan, and not surprisingly, it includes massive cuts.
In the dying days of the electoral race, the Singh campaign seems to be returning to Burnaby, making a big push in this area by holding rallies all over the Lower Mainland. He was too busy making campaign stops, though, to speak with CPAC. But it may be the new demographics in this riding which will decide Singh's fate.
There's parts of the riding that are new, which usually vote more Liberal. The closer you get to Vancouver, the more you find Liberal voters. And this is something that we've seen in other elections, even in elections where the Liberals don't do very well. You know, going back to 2011 with Michael Ignatieff, which is the worst election they've had in this century, they only got a couple of seats in Vancouver. So you have those pockets of Vancouver and the surrounding areas that tend to be more liberal. Now that you have everybody coalescing around Mark Carney, it's even harder for the NDP to hold on to their vote base.
The Liberal candidate, Wade Chang, is seeing this change firsthand.
I have been door knocking for the past 3-4 weeks, and I kept hearing one message: anxiety about what's next. So voters are concerned about Donald Trump's return to the White House and what that means to our economy, our jobs, our retirement saving, and global stability. But they are also concerned about Peter Poilievre, because like Peter Poilievre's plan sounds like a deep cut on our social farewell programs. That's what Canadians realize heavily when Canadians face tough times. Yeah, but they're also connecting with McCartney's message, seeing him as the only leader with experience and vision to get Canada back on track.
And that's what you're hearing at the door?
Yeah, like every day. Yeah, and they also believe that the Liberal Party of Canada is the only party who can beat the Conservatives. That include both NDP supporters.
The Chinese Canadian population is sizable in Burnaby, with close to 82,000 people, or a third of the riding.
你好，我是联邦自由党的国会议员候选人。
Chang says he is connecting with voters by speaking with them in their native Mandarin.
My family moved to Canada from Taiwan in 2000. My dad was a small business owner. My mom was a nurse. So we came to Canada with nothing but a luggage and a hope. So I myself is an internationally trained lawyer. I got my law degree from the University of Melbourne and my MBA from Oxford. So my journey has taken me to different places. Now I want to bring this global perspective back to Burnaby and transform Burnaby into a more immigration-friendly, small business-friendly, and innovative city.
But the Liberals' China policy isn't sitting well with some voters.
没事没事，好，谢谢，拜拜。
Wade, what was that conversation about?
It's about Carney. Carney's comment on China being our security threat in the debate.
And he doesn't like that?
A lot of Chinese people don't like it. A lot.
So Chinese Canadians will have an effect in the polls in Burnaby Central. But it is still a union town. The organized labor vote is still in play here.
Well, here on the ground in BC, we have lots of folks working the doors. You know, I've been out door knocking, almost every night of the week for the last few weeks with folks from a bunch of different unions, and machinists and QP and steelworkers, Hospital Employees Union, BCGEU. Like, everyone is on the ground all over the province trying to make sure that working people's voices are heard in Ottawa.
Suzanne Skidmore of the BC Federation of Labour believes we need the NDP in Parliament more than ever.
Well, we've seen, particularly in this last sitting, but really, from our perspective, having New Democrats in the House pushes government to do more, be better, right? We saw that through COVID, we saw it with pharmacare, we saw it through dental care, the push on anti-scab legislation. We had been pushing from the labor movement for anti-scab legislation to protect workers while they're on strike for years and years and years.
Since 1972, some portion of Burnaby has always been represented by the New Democratic Party. But now this winning streak could be at an end. The NDP remains stuck in third place in the polls, having fallen to single digits in popularity. The New Democrats need 12 seats to hang on to party status. That could now be in jeopardy. Jagmeet Singh's own seat could go red or blue. What's his future if he loses?
I think there's going to be a significant discussion about the future of the entire party. Usually what you have is an opportunity for the NDP leaders to grow a little bit. We can see what happened with Jack Layton. He did maybe not that great in 2004, a little bit better in 2006, a little bit better in 2008, and then leader of the official opposition in 2011. So there's that growth that allows the NDP voter to say, we're going somewhere. If you drop, let's say, from 17-18% of the votes to single digits, or single seat count when it comes to all of the seats in the House of Commons, people are going to be very disappointed and hoping for a different figure to take the party elsewhere.
So he's out.
Probably yes, and it's not the only one. I think this could be an election where we have a significant change of leadership everywhere. If the Bloc doesn't do well, Blanchet is in trouble. We don't know what's going to happen with the Greens now that they're out of the debates and essentially polling lower than 5%. And if the Conservatives don't win an election where they were ahead by 25 points, the knives are going to be out for Pierre Poilievre as well.
The Conservative candidate in the riding is James Yan. He's a business consultant with ties to the Conservative Party. He declined to speak with CPAC.
Hi, my name is Wade. I'm the Liberal candidate for Burnaby Central.
Liberal Wade Chang says Mark Carney's housing initiatives are resonating with voters here.
I mean, like a lot of young people are not happy because they won't be able to afford a home here in the riding. But again, like with Mr. Carney has removed the 5% GST on first-time home buyers. So I have been receiving a lot of feedback on this policy.
One phenomenon that may bode well for each party in this riding is voter engagement. The first day of advanced polls saw record turnouts across the country. 2 million people voted early on the first day.
Well, I came on the first day. There were people lining up. I waited for 2 hours. So went away, came back again, waited for an hour and a half. So today I finally came. No line up. Perfect.
No lineup.
Yeah. Good.
Go vote.
Go vote. Do your duty. Do your part. You're Canadian.
You know, it's been a long 10 years under Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government, and there's been a lot of spending and things that have gone not in the direction that I would normally think that they would go, and kind of hoping things kind of swing the other way a little bit this election and just kind of get back to real Canadian ways of doing things. It just seems like it's kind of, I don't know, not gone the way that I saw the future of Canada going.
Just want to know what your concerns are in this election.
Oh, well, there's a few. I mean, the cost of living is one, and the other one is probably the problem we're having with all these tariffs from USA. And yeah, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon, it looks like, so we're going to hang in there and hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Why did you feel it necessary to come in early and vote?
Well, I think it's important to vote because everyone vote counts and matters, and I think we all as citizens have a role to play in the future of our country. So I think that's why we're here today.
Advanced voting is always hard to decipher. You will always run into partisans online who are trying to spin it for their party when the truth is generally what we know from American election turnout and the Canadian election turnout is that advanced vote, mail-in vote usually skews towards those who are in a higher information environment, who are more aware that elections going on. Usually those people tend to be more educated, which means typically they're better for the left. But if enthusiasm is as high as it is for all sides in this election, and the Conservatives are famous for having good organization, at least federally, if the Conservatives can bring some of that to bear and some of their online ads can activate new voters that previously haven't cast ballot before, you could see that dynamic at least get narrowed.
A riding right next door to Burnaby Central is this one, New Westminster-Burnaby-Maillardville, where another NDP incumbent is hoping to hang on to his seat. New Westminster is a bit of a misnomer. This place isn't new at all. In fact, it's the oldest city in BC. It was the original capital of British Columbia, founded in 1859. The town of Maillardville is a new addition to the electoral riding.
New West, Burnaby, Maillardville, well, if you didn't know it, it's the best riding. Others may have told you differently, but it is. And we're welcoming in Maillardville to New West Burnaby in this federal election, so the riding itself is changing a little bit. But it's one of the most compact, dense communities in the region, in the province.
You can tell Mark Gifford is proud of his community.
It's culturally, linguistically, age-wise, one of the most diverse communities as well. It's got strong working class roots and still really is a home for a lot of working families and newcomer families who are trying to get a start and find a home in really the center of the region. It's sort of a keystone riding in the geography of the region. There's a really strong sense of community. You know, it's BC's first city, so there's lots of character as an older city. It's our first capital here in BC. Still lots of that local character. It's a city that really prides itself on showing up for one another, kind of being a small but mighty municipality that's got an independent and progressive streak.
We're seeing a lot of turnout right across the riding, which is great.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
That progressive voice is reflected in how this riding votes. Peter Julian has been the NDP Member of Parliament for 21 years. What do you think is going to happen on April 28th?
Well, first off, we've never had as many volunteers. You can see the enthusiastic team we have out. Never had as many small donations, never had as many sign locations. Our sign locations are running 5-1 against all the other parties combined. And so that's a good indication of the support that we have here in the riding.
Julian says the NDP's current dip in the polls means nothing.
I was asked the same question in 2011 by a multitude of journalists, and they said, Jack Layton is doing badly in the polls. Jack Layton is not going to maintain party status. Jack Layton is finished. How do you think the NDP could even manage getting party status? And then you'll recall after the leaders' debate, people heard Jack Layton, unfiltered, unvarnished. He was right there. And we saw the numbers for the NDP take off. And we saw the largest official opposition from the NDP in our nation's history, 103 seats. And I believe if the election had been 1 week longer, we would have seen the first NDP government. So I've had this question before, multitudes of times, every election.
Still, Julian and his team are not resting on their laurels.
We take nothing for granted. Every election, I've been told I'm third or fourth place in the polls. Every election we win because we work hard and we've got a terrific team and a strong track record. I mean, the NDP has delivered so much in this parliament. You think of dental care, a new pharmacare program that means that people with diabetes won't have to pay $1,000 a month for their medication.
Well, Peter Julian's been here since 2004. He's been here for 20 years. He's a good incumbent. He got almost 50% of the vote last time. And what makes Peter Julian so strong is that he has roots within the union movement. He has blue collar roots. And that union machine is going to show up to help him get out the vote for election day, but also because of his 2 decades of incumbency.
But Chan says it's the many changes in the riding that could possibly work against Peter Julian this time.
It's been interesting to watch the younger demographic gravitating towards the Conservatives. They're more likely to say that they're worried about housing. They're more likely to say that they're worried about the economy and jobs, and then worry about Canada-US relations. The problem with the younger demographic is they don't vote as much. Their voter turnout patterns are usually lower than what we see for the over 55s.
The NDP strategy is to get those potential Conservative voters to switch over to the New Democrats.
We've reached out to thousands and thousands of households, and so we actually find that people understand that if they want to defeat the Conservatives in Westminster-Burnaby-Maillardville, they have to vote NDP. And it doesn't take long to convince people of that because they see on the ground with their own eyes the importance of supporting the strong NDP campaign that we have here.
But the Conservatives have mounted a strong sign campaign in this riding. The candidate, Indy Panchi, declined to be interviewed by CPAC.
Hi, sir. I'm Lawrence. I'm running to be your Member of Parliament as an independent candidate.
But this former Conservative candidate did want to speak out. He was ousted by the party 28 days before Election Day. Lawrence, what happened?
What happened with my candidacy? Yeah, so on April 1st, I found out from the Conservative Party over a 9-minute phone call that they were ending my candidacy here in New Westminster-Burnaby-Maillardville. They brought up a podcast I was on over 4 years ago in February 2021. and specific comments I made with regards to speaking about the Chinese government. In that podcast, I said how it's fantastic living in a Western democracy like Canada that works so well for us, our system. But when I spoke about China, I said that over 40 years, many people had been lifted out of poverty. They've created a thriving large middle class with megacities. So I think a key statement that they had an issue with was when I said, although they have a different system of government, it seems to be working well for them over there. So the Conservative Party has a hardline anti-Chinese government position. So simply for complimenting or saying positive remarks about the regime was the reason they provided for letting me go.
CPAC tried to reach the Conservative Party for a comment, but we were unable to do so.
Yeah, I was the Conservative candidate until April 1st.
Yeah, but you pulled out and then...
The party dismissed me from the candidacy.
Singh says he often encounters confusion with voters as to which party he's representing.
Some people who are Conservative voters said that they disagree with the party. Many people have given me quite positive feedback that the party made a mistake. And even from door knocking 2 days ago, there was a family that were planning to vote Conservative, but they want to stand by me and they said, hey, put your sign outside.
Also attending debates and wanting to win this riding is Jake Sawatzky, the Liberal candidate.
I've been talking to people a lot. I've probably knocked on over 1,000 doors in this riding, and what people are saying a lot is they're really concerned about, on a national level, the aggression that's coming from the United States. So I think people really want Mark Carney to stand up to Donald Trump, and right now there's two options federally, and they really think that Mark Carney is the one with the resume.
So you're running against the incumbent. He's been here for over 20 years. What's that like?
Well, yeah, I mean, Peter Julian definitely has a lot of respect in the community. I would personally like to see some younger representation in government. It should be representative of all Canadians, and this riding is a city which has a lot of young families, and I think these young families should be represented by a young person.
Jason Sawatzky is a recent university graduate in neuroscience.
At first I was concerned that the age issue would come up, but it actually hasn't come up surprisingly much. I've actually been thinking that a lot of people are really receptive to having somebody young in government who's got a lot of energy and dedication towards the role. It's seeming like people are actually quite receptive.
Sawatzky feels he is being buoyed by the Carney effect.
The polls are looking good. In fact, it's looking like it's going to flip Liberal this year. I mean, you never know with the polls. Polls are one thing and election day is another, but as far as it stands right now, it's looking very Liberal.
But unseating the incumbent who's worked in the riding for 2 decades won't be easy, says our pundit, Hugh Chan.
He's also established decent ties with the multicultural communities around, say, Edmonds. A lot of that working class immigrant vote that lives in the riding, if they trust him more than they say trust the Liberal who is now running here, Jake Sawatzky, who just recently graduated from UBC. If they go with a more experienced incumbent, they may think that, oh, he knows our issues.
At the same time, says Chan, you can't count out the young Liberal.
You have to think of a lot of the Liberal upswing. Something that's worth thinking about is how much of that is a proper vote for, yes, I am supporting the Liberal Party of Canada and I will mark my ballot for them, and how much of that is actually simply just, I want to vote for a progressive option that will stop the Conservatives.
As in the other ridings in British Columbia that CPAC has covered, housing affordability is front and center for many in the riding, but that's not all.
Affordable housing is something Mark Carney wants to address. Also stopping the flow of toxic drugs into the community is another priority. And of course, tying that in with mental health and addictions treatment to make sure that people are getting the help that they need before they go down an unfortunately dark path. For example, I have a friend who passed away from a fentanyl overdose, tragically, at a young age, and that was very tragic. I know there are people who have greatly suffered from mental health issues, and it was really a long stretch of time where they weren't able to access any kind of treatment. So I'm just walking around saying hi to people. I'd like to meet as many people in the community as possible.
There are many in the community that are struggling with mental health and addictions concerns, and so those have surfaced for community members, and it's been a positive response on that. But it certainly remains a concern for some.
Mark Gifford would like to see some kind of coordinated response to these issues by the federal government. He would also like to see investments in infrastructure, especially when it comes to transportation for his city.
One of the strengths is being a transit hub, but that puts a lot of pressure on systems. And in a city with some of the oldest infrastructure, and so much of the region moving through it, it really puts some pressure on the systems that we've got.
In fact, one of the region's oldest transportation conduits is the Fraser River on the border of the riding.
It's the Fraser, the Stalo, right? It's a working river still. It's the first highway here in BC.
When Peter Julian sees the logs that flow along this so-called highway, he sees wasted opportunity for Canada.
Well, let me go back to Fraser Mills. My grandfather worked there. My father worked there. We used to have wood manufacturing, value-added production there, thousands of jobs. Stephen Harper ended that with the softwood lumber sellout. When he sold out this country, sold out $1 billion in punitive tariffs that we should have gotten back from the Americans. And the result has been, now if you go to Fraser Mills, it's a raw log export parking lot. We don't have the jobs anymore because of Stephen Harper and the Conservatives.
So don't just send out the raw logs down the river.
No.
Make something with them.
Exactly. Let's have more value-added jobs. That's what we used to have in this country. We need to build better. We need to ensure that we're making things again. And that has been what the NDP has been calling for years. And we have now been proven right by events.
And how those events will play out at the ballot box is anyone's guess.
We'll have a lot of work cut out for us, in between this election and the next one. I am going to remain cautiously optimistic. That's where I like to live. I think we'll pull it through. I think we have some really good, strong incumbents here in British Columbia, which is actually, I think, where some of the decision of this election may happen, right? Across the country, people will be looking to BC for some of the strong incumbent NDP seats, to see which way they go.
Also running in the riding of New Westminster-Burnaby-Maillardville is Tara Shastarian for the Green Party of Canada. I'm Laura Di Battista for CPAC.